In 773, a man named Charles the Great becomes king of France and begins conquest of a new great empire. And we know this man not as Charles the Great, but as another name, Charlemagne. Charlemagne begins his conquest by conquering the Lombard kingdom in modern Italy, and then moving north, conquering all the way to the Netherlands and pushing into modern Germany. Then in 804, Charlemagne conquered a tribe known as the Saxons in northwest Germany. But this conquest had its own problem. You see, this now put Charlemagne right on the border of the Kingdom of Denmark. Despite the worrying pressure of the King of Denmark with this great powerful kingdom to the south, the treaties were held. At least until Charlemagne began to build a navy. In response, the King of Denmark launched a fleet of 200 ships to raid Francia, and Charlemagne would respond with his own raid. At first, it appeared a full-scale war was coming between the Kingdom of Denmark and Charlemagne's Frankish Empire. But then, Charlemagne and the King of Denmark died. So let's fast forward to 840, and the Frankish Empire has just collapsed into 3 kingdoms. But I'm going to focus on the Kingdom of West Francia. So let's fast forward again to 845, with a man named Ragnar, with a force of 5,000 men and 120 ships, has just defeated the French army and now is raiding Paris. And the French king, Charles I, realizes that he can destroy these Vikings with a large army, but instead decides to bribe the Vikings into leaving. So, Charles I offers Ragnar 6,000 pounds of gold and silver to leave his lands. And Ragnar does agree to this, but it has the opposite effect of what Charles wanted. It would only encourage Viking raids into France. Actually, in the 860s period alone, the city of Paris was sacked 3 times. And in 885, Paris was under threat again. The largest army ever mustered under a man named Rollo, with 35,000 men and a fleet of 700 ships, arrived to raid the city once more. But the city stubbornly refuses to fall to the Viking force for 11 months, and the King Charles II has now arrived with his army and an offer: 700 pounds of silver to abandon the siege at Paris and plunder Burgundy instead. And Rollo would agree. 26 years later, in 911, Rollo decided to raid the city of Sharda. And despite 26 years, he had 20,000 men under his command. But he could not capture the city. In fact, he lost 6,500 men. In comparison, less than 100 French were killed. And worse, the French army arrived under King Charles III, but despite Charles's advantages, he couldn't break the Viking forces. So, he entered into negotiations, and Charles saw a perfect opportunity. Ever since Ragnar had captured and raided Paris, French kings had paid Vikings to leave over 120,000 pounds of gold and silver, which was a third of all the coins they had minted. So the resulting treaty that they came up with, the Treaty of St. Clair-sur-Epte, if Rollo and his men would keep peace with France, convert to Christianity, and provide military assistance, in exchange, Charles III would give them land that they could live on. And Rollo decided this was his best option and signed the treaty. Sadly, Rollo would die in 932. Actually, within a few years after Rollo's death, the land would expand into the area we know today, and it would eventually become a duchy of France. And we know this land by the name of Normandy. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check me out over on Patreon. The link is in the description.